I didn't want to come back to my childhood home. My father had passed away unexpectedly a few weeks ago. I was a schoolteacher now, and life in a small Ohio town felt distant. But I had to clean out the house. Felt heavy and strange being back. Memories were waiting for me, but some feelings were darker than others. One afternoon, as I cleared out the attic, I found an old journal. It was buried under a stack of dusty boxes and old photo albums. I remembered that my father had always said not to go outside after dark. At first, I thought it was just a parent's fear. But as I flipped through the journal, I felt uneasy. The last entry spoke of something hiding in our town. It sounded ominous. I wanted to dismiss it, but my heart raced. I knew it was telling me something I wasn't meant to read. In the days that followed, odd things caught my attention. Lights flickered in the trees at night. Conversations stopped when I entered a room. The townsfolk looked at me differently, as if they shared secrets I wasn't part of. I tried to convince myself it was nerves, but I learned about names that had vanished from town. People who had lived there and were never mentioned again. The atmosphere grew thick. I felt it in my chest. I needed to talk to someone, but every time I asked, people shut down. Their eyes were filled with fear. One evening, I ventured outside after dark, despite my father's warnings. The trees stood tall, blocking out all the moonlight. I felt a strange pull, like something wanted me to explore the woods. The thought scared me, but curiosity pushed me to the edge. I heard whispers then, soft but clear. Felt like they were coming from the trees. My pulse quickened. I stood in my yard, straining my ears to listen. And then I saw him, a figure at the edge of the forest. He was frozen, just staring at me. I didn't move. I wanted to call out, but the words caught in my throat. I looked at my reflection in the window. I looked scared. The figure finally turned to face me. "Are you coming out?" he asked. My stomach dropped. Everything around me felt cold and dark. I didn't know what to do. Felt like the air thickened. My heart raced. My instincts screamed at me to run inside. But part of me wanted to know. Just as I turned to escape, the world around me dimmed. I couldn't see the yard anymore. Panic surged through me. I staggered backward, lost in shadows. I realized then how right my father had been. I was caught in darkness with no escape in sight. I stumbled back, disoriented. My heart hammered loudly in my chest, drowning out the soft whispers that lured me closer just moments before. Panic clawed at my throat. Everything around me felt unreal. Shadows bending and shifting like fingers reaching for me. I wanted desperately to run, but fear held me in place. Then, just as suddenly as it had darkened, light flickered back to life. I squinted against the sudden brightness, and for a heartbeat, I thought I was safe. But the figure was still there, shrouded in the remnants of darkness, now clearer but no less intimidating. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. He took a step forward, brushing leaves aside. I could see his face, now sharp features, eyes narrowed but flashing with something that looked like recognition. "You shouldn't be out here," he said softly, but the urgency in his tone sent chills down my spine. "What do you mean?" I pressed, trying to hold on to the tension that was wrapping around my chest. "What are you hiding?" He hesitated, glancing back toward the tree line as if expecting something to leap out. "You have to come with me. We don't have much time." I shook my head, stepping back. I couldn't understand his fear or my own. This was my childhood home, a place I thought I knew. "I need to go inside," I said, trying to convince myself as much as him. "Please," he urged, desperation creeping into his voice. "You're not safe here. Not after dark. There are things out here that—" My pulse raced. I froze as I recalled snippets from the journal, words of warning written in my father's handwriting. "Things that haunt the night," he called them. I backed away again, turning to flee, but he moved faster, blocking my path. I could see now strange symbols were carved into the trees around us, almost like markings of a forgotten language. My stomach twisted. "What do those mean?" I asked, pointing at the nearest tree. "They're warnings," he said, urgency lacing his words. "They keep them at bay. If you linger too long, they'll come for you." The dread seeped into my bones. What will come for me? The ground trembled beneath my feet, and the whispers grew louder. I felt them wrap around me like a cold blanket. He glanced around nervously. You have to trust me. It's not just disappearances. They're taken. And the people who are taken never return. I swallowed hard. The enormity of his words sank deep into my chest. My own pulse echoed in my ears as disbelief and fear wrestled for control. For an instant, I considered his warning. Everything my father had said suddenly felt like it was coming to life. Then, with a sudden rush, the darkness pooled around us again. The air thickened, pressing down like a weight. I could barely breathe. What is happening? I shouted. Run, he yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. I turned, instinct taking over, but where was I supposed to go? My father's warnings echoed. I had to get away. As I dashed toward the house, everything went black once more. Just as it consumed me, I heard his voice, small but fierce. They're coming. The darkness wrapped around me, and I knew I'd have to uncover the truth quickly, or I might become another name whispered in the shadows. I stumbled through the front door, slamming it behind me. I leaned against it, my chest heaving. The silence in the house felt heavy, more oppressive than the chaos outside. My mind raced. I could still hear the whispers, a low hum that sent chills dancing down my spine. I rushed to the living room, looking for something, anything that could ground me. The old sofa sagged under the weight of years and dust. My father's books lined the shelves, their spines fading. I ran my fingers along them, searching for the journal. Maybe I needed to read his words again. They had felt so real, so important. But then, a noise made me freeze. A soft tap, like a knock, came from the far window. I turned slowly, my heart skipping a beat. Was someone out there? I crept closer, peering through the curtain. My breath caught as I recognized the figure from the woods. It was him. He stood outside with urgency etched on his face, glancing nervously from the trees to the house. What was he doing here? I felt a mix of fear and curiosity swell within me. I opened the window a crack. What do you want? I whispered, hoping the night didn't swallow my voice. Let me in, he hissed, his voice tense. Please, you're not safe alone. His eyes darted past me, scanning the inside of the house. I hesitated. Should I trust him? Memories of my childhood flickered through my mind, the stories about things lurking outside after dark. Could he be one of them? Why should I? I shot back, suddenly defensive. You didn't tell me anything before. I didn't have time. I thought you'd be safe here. But I was wrong. His voice held a note of desperation that made me uneasy. Listen, they know you're here. If I'm right, they know your name. My stomach churned at his words. They know my name? The weight of his statement sat heavily in the air. I thought of my father, his warnings echoing in my mind. I couldn't dismiss the fear that coiled inside me, begging me to listen. Let me in, he repeated, urgency creeping back into his voice. I can explain. I still had questions swirling in my head. Was he with them? Or was he trying to save me? The doubt was excruciating. I took a breath, my heart racing. Okay, I found myself saying. But you better start talking. I opened the window wider, allowing him to slip inside. As he stepped into the dim light, I could see the dirt and leaves still clinging to him, remnants of the forest's secrets. He closed the window behind him, sealing us off from the outside. I'm Jason, he said quickly, glancing at the door. And I came to warn you. There isn't much time. What do you mean? I pressed, my voice barely above a whisper. That when I heard it, a rustling outside. Something was coming. I knew we had to move fast. My heart raced anew. Whatever was hiding out there was no longer just a story. The feeling of dread knotted in my stomach, and I knew this was just the beginning of something far worse. The weight of Jason's words settled in the room, thick and suffocating. I leaned closer, trying to grasp the gravity of what he was saying. What's out there? I asked, my voice trembling. They're not just things in the dark. They're looking for you, he replied, his expression grim. About a month ago, they came for someone else. We thought it was an isolated incident, But it's not. They're getting bolder. What do you mean they? I asked, my mind racing with unanswered questions. Who are you even? How do you know all this? He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, frustration brewing in his gaze. I've been tracking them. I followed their patterns, their movements. They prey on people like us, people who have a connection to the woods. I stepped back, my back hitting the bookshelf. Connection? I don't have any connection. My life is normal. Normal? He scoffed, shaking his head. You think what's happening outside this house is normal? You don't feel it? Feel what? The sound of branches creaking echoed around us, sending a wave of panic through my chest. I could almost convince myself it was just the wind. But Jason's eyes widened, fear mirroring my own. Listen, he whispered urgently, we need to move. Now. No. I want to know more. I felt a stubbornness rise within me, a refusal to back down. But deep down, I recognized the foolishness of my defiance. Trust me. You don't want to be here when they come, he insisted, asserting a quiet authority. I could hear the desperation in his voice. Outside, the rustling intensified. It was closing in, whatever it was. I couldn't ignore it anymore. My heart raced as I surveyed the living room. Should we leave? Or should we barricade ourselves inside? Your parents? Jason suddenly asked, urgency radiating from him. Where are they? Not home, I said quickly, my fear intertwining with guilt. They left for the night. I should have gone with them. Good. They'll be safer away. But you need to come with me. Just as he reached for my hand, the front door rattled violently, the sound slicing through the air like glass shattering. I flinched, adrenaline kicking in. Stay low, Jason instructed, and I dropped to the floor beside him. My pulse thundered in my ears as the door shook again, the hinges groaning under the pressure. Who's there? I cried out, my voice cracking, filled with a mix of terror and defiance. Then I heard it, a low growl that crawled across my skin. It wasn't just the wind or nature at work. This was something else entirely. Jason gripped my shoulder, his eyes fierce. We have to go out the back. Now. With a sense of dread clawing at me, I nodded. He pushed aside the curtain, revealing a dark alley behind the house. If we went, there was no telling what waited for us. But staying here felt like an invitation to the danger that lurked outside. I took a deep breath, ready for whatever would happen next. The door creaked ominously again. Time was running out. On 3, Jason murmured, his eyes fixed on the door. 1, 2 before he could say 3, we lunged for the back door together, desperate to escape whatever was coming for us. As we burst through the back door, cold air slapped my face, mixing with the scent of damp earth. Jason pulled me into the narrow alley, his grip firm around my wrist. I could hear the door behind us shudder under the pressure again, and I feared it would give way that we didn't stop. I stumbled after him, the darkness swallowing us whole. The moon barely illuminated our path, casting long shadows that shifted with every movement. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, a steady drum of anxiety. Where do we go? I panted, barely keeping up. What if they're out here too? We need to find a place to hide, Jason said, glancing back toward the house. There's an old shed at the end of the alley. We can get inside. Hurry! I forced my legs to move despite the unease coiling in my stomach. The alley stretched on, and I felt the oppressive darkness pressing closer, like a weight I could barely escape. Each sound made me jump, an animal scuttling, a distant branch snapping. Jason, what are they? I whispered, falling back on hope. He must have more answers. You said they're looking for me. Why? He shot me an intense look but continued forward. I don't know everything, but I think they're drawn to specific energies, those who felt the woods call. You and me, we both have something. I can feel it in the air. What does that mean? Before he could answer, a sound tore through the night, a guttural snarl, close enough that I froze. The noise echoed through the alley, chilling me to the bone. Please tell me you heard that, I said, my pulse racing. I wanted to argue, to ask more questions, but fear paralyzed me. He nodded, eyes wide. That's them. We need to move. With a sudden burst of energy, we sprinted toward the shed, which loomed at the alley's end. My heart felt like it might burst, the thrill of fear driving me onward. The old building looked decrepit and neglected, with peeling paint and a roof threatening to cave in. Right here, Jason hissed as we reached it. He yanked open the door, and I followed him inside, my heart pounding like thunder. The shed was cramped and dark. I could barely make out the outlines of old tools and cobwebs in the corners. Jason pushed the door closed, fumbling with the latch as I tried to catch my breath. The room was stifling, the air thick with mustiness. What now? I asked, panic creeping back. Now we wait, he said, scanning the cramped space for any escape route. His posture was tense, every muscle ready to react. But as we crouched in silence, the growling intensified outside. It was closing in, circling the shed like a predator. I swallowed hard. How could we stay hidden when everything felt so wrong? Then I noticed something strange in the corner, a faint glow beneath a pile of junk. I moved closer, curiosity and dread battling inside me. It was a small, ornate box, shimmering as if something inside pulsed with life. I could hardly breathe as I reached for it. That S when I saw it, Jason said, his voice shaking. What did you find? I hesitated, the box warm against my fingertips. Something told me opening it could change everything. But it could also expose us to the creatures outside, the thing that was hunting us. I glanced at Jason. He looked terrified but intent, his gaze fixed on the box. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was inside might either save us or lead us right into danger. Should I? I began. But before I could finish, a loud crash outside made me jump. The noise shattered the silence, sending shivers down my spine. Quick, open it, Jason urged. I took a deep breath, heart racing, and lifted the lid. The lid creaked open, and a bright light burst forth, nearly blinding me. I squeezed my eyes shut instinctively, feeling warmth wash over my skin. As I opened them again, the glow illuminated the shed's dark corners, revealing cobwebs that sparkled like miniature stars. My breath caught as I leaned in closer. Inside the box lay a glimmering stone, shaped like a teardrop, its surface shifting colors as if it held a living, breathing magic. Felt wrong yet thrilling. I could sense its power, tinged with an urgency that beckoned me closer. What is that? Jason asked, eyes wide with both fascination and fear. I don't know, I murmured, unable to take my gaze off the stone. But it feels important. With a sudden crash, the shed door shuddered violently, slamming against the wall. The growling outside intensified, echoing with a hunger that sent fear rippling through me. It didn't matter if I understood the stone's significance or not, our time was running out. Close it, Jason shouted. He grabbed my shoulder, his grip tightening as he glanced around for an exit. We can't let them in. I closed the box just as another heavy thud struck the door, rattling the entire shed. My heart raced as I stared at the box, conflicted. Whatever was inside had an aura of mystery, but I felt an intense connection to it too. Do you think it can help us? I asked, my voice shaky. There's only one way to find out, he said, his tone half resolute, half uncertain. Another crash shook the door. Dust fell from the rafters like tiny stars raining down on us. My instincts screamed at me to run, but something else, a deep-seated curiosity, held me rooted to the spot. I can feel it, Jason said, as if reading my thoughts. It's like it knows we're here, like we're meant to find it. Just as I nodded, a figure appeared through the cracks in the walls. It was enormous, shadowy, and its eyes glowed with a hungry light. My breath halted, fear wrapping around me like a vice. We need to act now, Jason shouted. In an instant, I opened the box again, heart pounding, and held the stone up toward the figure. The glow surged, bathing the shed in blinding light. For a moment, I felt a wave of energy surge through me, anchoring my fear and desperation into something tangible. The growling outside shifted. It turned from menace to a terrified vehemence. The creature shrank back from the light, its silhouette wavering. What's happening? Jason stepped closer, mesmerized. I don't know, I yelled, unsure whether I should continue. Was this a defense mechanism, or was I unleashing something far more dangerous? But before I could ponder my next move, the light expanded, swirling around us like a protective barrier. The sounds of scratching nails and guttural growls faded into a distant howl. I felt the energy enveloping us, and suddenly, I was filled with a sense of clarity, bordering on purpose. I think it's trying to help us. But as I absorbed this revelation, that clarity waned. A dark shadow loomed again, coiling in the corner of the shed, stifling the light. No, I gasped, realizing the danger wasn't over yet. We need to get out of here, Jason cried, edging toward the rear of the shed. As I glanced back at the glowing stone, I knew this wasn't the end. Whatever lay ahead was darker than I could have ever imagined, and we had unwittingly stepped into its domain. Come on, Jason urged again, urgency fueling his words. As we pushed toward the back wall, I gripped the box tightly. What would we find next? Suddenly, there was another crash, this time from the back wall. We weren't safe yet. The wall splintered, sending wood chips flying through the air. I stumbled backward, clutching the box tightly. Panic surged inside me like a tidal wave. Move now, Jason shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. He grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the far corner of the shed. Just then, the space between us and the beast darkened further. I could see its shadow writhing, swallowing the light like it was a meal. My heart raced in rhythm with the pounding of my feet against the floorboards. Where do we go? I gasped, glancing around for any possible escape. The shed felt like a tomb, slowly closing in around us. With another callous crack, the wall caved in, and a figure emerged, its eyes burning fiercely, glowing like molten lava. I could feel the heat radiating from its body. It lunged forward, and instinct kicked in. We darted toward the back window, the only bit of light left in the shed. Help me, Jason yelled. The sound of his voice jolted me into action. I pushed against the wooden frame, adrenaline fueling my strength. On three, I shouted. 1, 2, 3. I thrust the window open, a breath of fresh air mixing with the stench of decay surrounding us. As we scrambled to climb out, I caught a glimpse of the creature. It was massive, like a shadow made flesh, and everything about it screamed danger. It slammed against the shed wall, sending vibrations through my bones, and I knew we were out of time. Go, Jason shouted, already outside, yet I hesitated, my eyes drawn back to the stone. What if it could protect us even outside? But before I could think further, the window rattled as the creature clawed at the shed. No, I cried, torn between curiosity and survival. I shoved the glowing stone into my pocket and dove out the window, hitting the ground hard. I rolled to my feet as Jason yanked me up. Run, he urged, pulling me toward the dense thicket of trees. We darted into the woods, the darkness swallowing us whole. I didn't dare look back. The vision of that creature etched into my mind. The air was crisp and lively, but all I felt was dread. Do you think we lost it? Jason asked, glancing over his shoulder. I don't know, I panted, desperate for a moment to catch my breath. But we have to keep moving. We plunged deeper into the forest, branches whipping against our skin. My heart pounded with each step, but a chilling thought crept in. What had we awakened? Ahead, the trees parted, revealing a clearing illuminated by an otherworldly glow. In the center stood a stone altar, smothered in moss and vines. I felt the stone in my pocket pulsate against my thigh. My heart raced. That's unsettling, Jason whispered, stepping closer with hesitation. It's like it's calling to us, I admitted, my pulse quickening. My head was spinning with questions. Could the stone and this altar be connected? Then everything went dark. A low rumble echoed through the ground, and I looked up just in time to see the shadows around us surge forward. Run! I yelled again, dragging Jason back into the trees. But the energy pulsing in my pocket tugged at my thoughts. What if it held the answer? As I ran, I realized we weren't just running from a monster. We were on the verge of uncovering something much bigger, something that could change everything. But with every breath I took, I knew one truth. Whatever lay ahead wasn't going to be easy, and the night was far from over. I pushed deeper into the woods, breathless and frantic. Jason followed closely behind, his eyes darting nervously. The branches overhead formed a tangled web, and the shadows on the forest floor seemed to twist and writhe with every step we took. Why would anyone build an altar like that here? Jason panted, glancing back. What were those things? I don't know, I replied, the weight of my fear pressing down on me. But we need to figure it out. I felt the stone in my pocket strange and warm, as if it were alive. Suddenly, the sound of crunching leaves broke through our hurried breaths. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to face the direction of the noise. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Did you see that? I whispered, stopping in my tracks. What? Jason whispered back, panic creeping into his voice. There, behind the trees. Before he could respond, a figure emerged. It was another person. A girl, maybe a year or two younger than us, her clothes torn and dirt-smeared, and her hair wild. She looked at us with wide, terrified eyes. Please, help me. She stumbled forward, looking back over her shoulder as if she were being chased. It's coming. Who's coming? I asked, my instincts screaming at me to keep my distance. But before she could answer, a howl split the air, a sound so guttural and ominous it sent chills down my spine. The girl flinched and grabbed my arm, holding on for dear life. What is that thing? Jason shouted, his voice laced with panic. I had no answers. All I knew was that whatever was out there was closing in. The howling grew louder, echoing through the trees, as if it were circling us. We've got to go, I cried, pulling the girl along with us. I can't, she panted, terrified. It won't let me go back. Back? Where? Jason demanded. But the girl only shook her head, tears streaming down her dirt-smeared face. I glanced at Jason. We might not have a choice. We need to trust her. If she knows about this thing, maybe she can help lead us away. Are you crazy? Jason protested. What if she's luring us into a trap? The howling grew closer, and I could feel the ground vibrating beneath my feet. We've got to make a decision now, I shouted, adrenaline fueling my words. With no further time to waste, I pulled the girl toward me. We'll trust you. Just lead the way. With a desperate look, she turned and sprinted deeper into the woods. I exchanged a quick glance with Jason before we followed, urgency propelling us forward. As we ran, my thoughts raced. Would this girl save us? Or was she leading us into something worse? The howling grew closer still, close enough that I could almost feel its breath. My heart pounded like a war drum. That when I saw it, a flicker of light through the trees, shimmering like hope or a dangerous illusion. This way, I shouted, hoping against hope that I was right. But as we ran, the shadows around us thickened, and I felt a sinking dread clawing at my insides. Whatever awaited us in that clearing couldn't be worse than what was chasing us. Could it? But there was only one way to find out, and we were running out of time. We sprinted toward the light, the urgency of our situation driving us forward. The girl dashed ahead, weaving expertly through the trees. I felt a mixture of hope and dread. What if this light was just another trap? Do you see it? Jason shouted, struggling to keep pace. I turned to him, noting the wild look in his eyes. It's right there. I pointed ahead, where the light was now brighter. Maybe it was a safe haven or at least a place to hide. The howling intensified behind us, a terrifying reminder that something was hunting us. Our goal seemed closer, yet with every step, the shadows darkened around us. I could feel the presence of whatever was chasing us, lurking just beyond view. We broke into the clearing and were greeted by an otherworldly sight. A massive tree stood at the center, its trunk gnarled and twisted, glowing with the same ethereal light that had called us here. Roots snaked through the ground like fingers, and around them lay strange symbols carved into the earth. I stopped short, taking it all in. What is this place? Jason asked, his breath ragged. I don't know, I replied, my eyes scanning for danger. But it looks like it's some kind of ritual site, the girl interrupted. Her voice quivered, and I noticed the way her gaze flicked nervously between us and the shadows at the edge of the clearing. It's where they perform the sacrifices. Sacrifices? Jason's voice cracked as he stepped back, panic making him sway on his feet. Yes, she whispered, trembling. That's what the howls are. They want blood. They can't cross this line. But they're coming for me. They're always coming for me. Panic shot through me. What do we do? Just then, a growl emanated from the darkness, more primal and vicious than I'd ever heard. The shadows thickened, and I caught a glimpse of something enormous lurking just beyond the tree line, a hulking figure, impossibly large and outlined by the dim light. My heart raced, and I instinctively stepped closer to the glowing tree. Stay near the tree, I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady. It won't let it in. The girl came to my side, her eyes wide and filled with fear. I could see Jason hesitating, torn between staying close to us and making a run for it again. Jason, now! I screamed, my voice filled with a desperation that echoed in the clearing. He took a deep breath and rushed back towards us, his feet pounding the earth as he reached the glowing perimeter of the tree. The growling became a roar, shaking the air, and I could feel the vibrations deep in my bones. I reached into my pocket and grasped the stone, the heat radiating through my fingers. It was pulsing now, as if in response to the chaos around us. I didn't understand what it was or what it could do, but I knew we needed to unleash its power before it was too late. Stand back, I yelled, lifting the stone. The glow intensified, brightening the dark around us. That when everything went dark. The world faded, leaving only the echo of our breaths and the rumble of something massive approaching. The shadows were no longer just lurking. They were coming for us, and I had no idea what would happen next. The world around me spun back into focus, but everything felt distorted, colors too vivid, shadows stretching longer than they should. I stood with the stone clutched tightly in my hand, Jason and the girl, whom I still didn't know by name, flanking me. The growls had ceased, replaced by an unsettling silence, as if the forest itself held its breath. The towering, glowing tree loomed over us, its roots pulsating with light. Instinctively, I sidled closer to it, feeling the warmth radiate from its trunk. What now? Jason asked, glancing between me and the colossal shadows still lingering in the periphery. Maybe we can use the stone, I replied, breathless. It seems like it's connected to this place. Jason eyed me, uncertainty swimming in his expression. Are you sure? I mean, what if it makes things worse? Before I could respond, the shadows flickered. A low growl rumbled through the air again, closer this time. I lifted the stone, and it glowed brighter, resonating with an energy I could barely comprehend. We have to try, I shouted, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Stand back, I urged, stepping into the center of the clearing. The girl pressed close to Jason, both of them watching with a blend of fear and hope. I raised the stone high, its surface shimmering like a torrent of colors in the darkness. If you're with me, help me. A low hum began to vibrate through the air as the stone responded, the ethereal glow swirling around us. My heart raced, and I focused on the shadows beyond the light, willing them to see me. I had no idea what I was doing, but I felt an overwhelming desire to protect my newfound companions. The growl morphed into a roar, shaking the ground beneath me, but I held my ground, thrusting the stone forward. Show yourselves, I cried, my voice echoing through the clearing. In that instant, the shadows sprang to life, coalescing into a massive figure that emerged from the forest's edge. It towered above us, its eyes glowing like embers. The air thickened with a palpable tension as it stepped closer, emitting a low, guttural growl. The shadows around its form writhed like living things, creeping ever closer. The glow from the stone intensified, casting away the darkness, almost like a protective barrier. The creature halted, unnerved. Its eyes flickered with a mix of rage and fear, and for a fleeting moment, I sensed uncertainty from it. What are you? I whispered, feeling foolish and helpless but needing to ask. The growl subsided, replaced by a rumbling, almost desperate sound that resonated deep within the earth. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature stumbled back, shadows dissipating like smoke caught in an updraft. The light from the stone cast an expansive radiance, revealing every gnarled root of the tree and every twisted branch above us. As the creature retreated further into the night, I could feel the weight of our predicament shifting. With each step, I sensed a long-buried fear uncoiling, but answers were still elusive. "We did it," Jason murmured, dazed by the unfolding spectacle. I nodded but could feel the ominous uncertainty lingering. But what exactly was that? The girl finally spoke, her voice fragile. "That's just one of them. There are many more." My stomach plummeted. "What do you mean?" "They're drawn to darkness," she explained, her face pale. "To fear. They want to claim. But I thought you'd have the connection, too." I raised the stone again, the warmth radiating against my palm, soothing and confusing me all at once. Maybe it was true, perhaps I was connected to this somehow, but knowing how didn't come easily. "We need to go deeper into the woods," she urged, her eyes darting nervously toward where the creature had retreated. "It's not over yet." "Wait," I called, grasping for information. "Are there more of those things? Will they come for us again?" The shadows once more whispered through the trees. The girl nodded gravely. "They will. They always will." But before I could ask more, the air stirred with the sound of rustling, echoing closer. My heart pounded with anxiety. As I exchanged glances with Jason and the girl. "We have to move," Jason insisted, his voice sharper now, grounded in the urgency of our situation. The thought of traversing the menacing woods filled me with dread, but something deeper urged me forward. "Let us go," I said resolutely, clutching the stone tightly. As we stepped into that elongated darkness, shadows enveloped us again, and companionship felt fragile in the face of that daunting night. We wandered through trees that loomed like sentinels, the pulsing beauty of the stone a stark contrast to the lurking horror whispering just out of sight. Even as we moved deeper into the unknown, that cold tendril of fear slowly twisted into something else, determination laced with the shadows of a past that seemed inextricably drawn to our present. Whatever happened next, I realized, would require more than courage. It would demand an unraveling of histories, connections, and perhaps the latent power of the stone itself. I felt its warmth pulse against my palm, whispering secrets still hidden. We would uncover something great or risk being lost in the darkness forever. And yet, as we pressed forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead would forever change our understanding of ourselves and what the woods had to teach. But what that answer would truly be, I could not know just yet.